Digital humans are an interactive and human interface between humans and computers with infinite applications.
Mit unendlichen Anwendungsmöglichkeiten. This is
a fantastic technology, and Renderpeople created the Digital Human Project to make an elementary contribution to developing this great technology for the future.
Großartige Technologie für die Zukunft weiterzuentwickeln.
The initial goal for myself and our team was to find out what we can achieve together here at Renderpeople, testing the capabilities of our current equipment and reaching our limits. We also wanted to find out where we can develop further and what are the things we can improve.
My goal for the project was to achieve the most realistic result possible with the current resources available to us, while also learning a lot for upcoming projects.
What I was really looking forward to in regards to the project was that we as a team push our skills and come up with a new product that is a good step further than what we have done so far here at Renderpeople.
My goal for the project was setting a new quality standard for us here at the company, going one step further, creating a true one-to-one lifelike copy of a human being.
Our original plan was to create a digital human that could act as a marketing character.
For our initial version of the project, the main focus was to create a photorealistic human head in Unreal Engine, running in real time, that could do all the movements and facial expressions a real human would be able to do. Relatively quickly, we decided to also add a body to the model to add more context to the presentation of our model. And yeah, that's how our Fred came to be.
It's really funny that I was already 3D scanned in the studio a year and a half ago, and now it's an entirely new project. It's going to be more detailed now. For me, it's very interesting to see what's going to be made from all the different 3D scans and how it's going to evolve. Seeing the technology advance over time and how it's going to be used in the project is really fascinating.
The Digital Human Project was a scope for a single project that we haven't had before to that extent at Renderpeople. It was a very big challenge for all of us, and for the whole team, both organizationally, logistically, and for our 3D artists. Many different areas come together. It started with the overall planning, pre-production, and the scanning process itself, in combination with the operation of our Photogrammetry scanner. This time not only creating stock footage as usual at Renderpeople, but now going the extra mile. One step further to create a virtual avatar that looks as real and as natural as possible, and also comes with all the special features necessary to copy a real person in the best possible way.
Die notwendig sind, einen echten Menschen bestmöglich zu kopieren.
We usually take a photo with 250 cameras for one single posed 3D scan. And now for our model Fred, we took, if I'm not mistaken, close to 150 poses to create one digital human. It's a huge amount of data that we have collected and can use as reference. That's the huge difference to a normal Renderpeople model.
With the Digital Human, we wanted to really push our existing photogrammetry pipeline to its limits. To do that, we booked our actor Fred and referenced and scanned him in all sorts of ways. We did a photogrammetry shoot with him, recording countless visums and poses. Our goal was to be able to digitize muscles, textures, and movement as detailed as possible, so that we can really recreate his true acting performance with all emotions in 3D.
During the shoot, it was really important to us to capture every little detail of Fred, so that all the tiny movements of his performance could be transferred to our digital human model.
Because it was the first time for us to realize such a big-scale 3D scanning session, we tried to capture as many impressions as possible from Fred, capturing visual details, how his overall look changes with different facial expressions, and also how he looks in various lighting situations, gathering as many references as possible.
My task was to support the photogrammetry shooting photographically and to create high-resolution reference images of our actor. For the shoot itself, it was especially important for us that Fred looked as natural as possible. Capturing the essence of his performance and acting was our goal. The digital version of Fred should come as close as possible to his real-life counterpart. Fred is an excellent actor. This can also be seen in the 3D scans and motion capture recordings. A certain scannability and ease during this rather special shooting day were helpful for the whole process. It was essential to us that you can see in the animation that he felt comfortable. This also reflects onto the digital copy of Fred, making him look as realistic as possible.
I was responsible for the shooting itself. Usually, all 3D scanner work is done together with my colleague Dennis. But this time the shooting process was my responsibility. On the first day, we scanned Fred in different outfits and different poses. This allowed us to easily reconstruct all the different outfits afterward. Then we shot all of our planned facial expressions. From those, we were able to reconstruct a lot of different movements of his facial muscles.
My task during the shooting session was mainly to guide our actor through the shooting process. First, he needed to get an introduction from us on how to articulate his face, because it's quite tricky to keep your face under control and target the specific areas of the face to get the exact poses we need.
Sein Gesicht unter Kontrolle zu halten und die bestimmten Gesichtsbereiche eben auch anzusteuern. Bevor wir ihn geshootet haben, mussten
Before we started the scanning itself, we had to prepare him. For that, we drew tracking points on his face. We chose the most prominent points on the face, which we had defined beforehand. We used a specific pattern to draw those points at areas with the highest possible deformations. Extreme points could be, for example, the corners of the mouth or the eyebrows.
die beiden Mundwinkel oder auch die Augenbrauenpartien. Und wenn wir eben das Gesicht einmal
When he deforms the face, we can track the facial deformations through the movement of those
diese
points.
Punkte sich dann im Nachhinein auch dementsprechend verhalten. Dann während des Shootings
During the shoot, I continued to look after our actor. We proceeded in small steps, introducing pose after pose.
eingeleitet. Hat diese umgesetzt. Hier und da musste dann eben noch
Here and there, we had to readjust the poses so that we got the specific expression that we were looking for.
Ausdruck, den wir haben wollten und den wir uns vorgestellt haben, auch bekommen.
Heute der Tag bei Renderpeople war sehr, sehr
The day at Renderpeople was very, very exciting. We tried out new technologies for this project, and me playing a part in this was amazing. I was allowed to be the model on which all the facial expressions and all kinds of things were scanned and captured. I had never experienced a photo shooter scan session like this before. So in the studio, I sat there in the middle of the scanner and really just made many different facial expressions, which were then scanned and archived to be then hopefully merged and implemented afterward into a beautiful 3D model.
After the scan was reconstructed in reality capture, my job was to clean up Fred's head, the neutral pose, and all the extreme poses. That means removing artifacts, compensating for any volume losses, making sure that Fred's head is represented correctly virtually, and then refined. To do this, I created so-called displacement maps based on the scanned textures, which were then used to project the finest pores and wrinkles that the actual scan could not capture. And these were then transferred to the actual high-resolution mesh. It was very important to make sure that the actual scan wasn't distorted too much, and that we really stayed true to Fred's appearance. Making sure to adjust the scan data here and there, because the scan artifacts can cause volume loss.
After the individual facial expressions were processed, there were many of them. It was a matter of sifting through them and processing them further, and above all, focusing on the most expressive ones.
Und weiter zu verarbeiten und vor allem sich dann auf die ausdrucksstärksten auch zu fokussieren. Dann ging es über
For those steps, we used ZBrush and Wrap 3D. Wrap 3D is a program that is ideally suited for aligning these scans with each other. Our task was to orient all our different facial expressions, which come as different geometries. We align all expressions to one selected base mesh so that we can generate individual blend shapes from them.
Zu orientieren, sodass wir im weiteren Verlauf uns die Blendshapes darauf generieren können. Meine Aufgabe bestand auch darin,
My task was also to build these blend shapes in Maya. To do this, we came up with a custom blend shape setup. This is a system for separating these blend shapes from each other to improve control over the face areas. We ended up with a lot of different blend
Oberlippe
shapes.
von Unterlippe, sodass wir auf eine Vielzahl an unterschiedlichen Blend-Shapes im Endeffekt rauskamen.
Die Texturen, die uns Reality Capture
The textures that Reality Capture generated for Fred's scans also had to be cleansed of artifacts. This whole process was done in Mari. After that, the whole thing had to be color matched to Fred's actual skin color. We had to compensate for light bleeding, meaning light that fell on the head from the side and was possibly projected incorrectly onto the 3D model. In general, we had to make sure that the color temperature was even across the whole face in order to get a clean albedo map for Fred. It was also important to manually paint out small shadows or small hard light edges on the face texture. We needed to reduce any hard lights to a minimum on the final texture. Our goal was to get a near light-free texture, a so-called albedo map.
auf Basis dieser
Based on this cleaned-up texture, we then created the textures that controlled Fred's highlight behavior. Those control how his skin and how the overall material he is made of interacts with light. That was achieved with different maskings and partially hand-rendered zones on his face, and with that, we were able to get a good representation of his skin.
I was responsible for the realistic animation of our digital human. To record his finest facial movement, we put a face rig on his head and record his performance with an integrated infrared face cam. For the body movement, we used the X-Sense suit. It was important to get his body measurements first so that we could choose the right suit, and also that we could give the program the right information about Fred's body proportions. Once Fred has the motion capture suit on, we have to put many sensors on his body. They are added at all the joints, so we can track the arms, the hands, the fingers, the legs, the back, the head, simply everything. This way, we can capture all movements in the program and then use and refine them for our final animation. We used a face rig from Dynamics for the face, which captured his facial performance. It was also very helpful that we kept the points on the face from previous 3D scans to capture more details of the acting performance. In the meantime, we also recorded a lot of reference material, which I could use later on in case I needed finer details or more comparison material after the data is already processed in the program.
You only really see this in Hollywood movies. For example, when the Hulk is walking around as a normal human being, and then he's transformed into a digital character. He wears a suit with dots on it, usually some also on his face, and I also wore a similar suit. This was just super exciting. The whole thing is very comfortable, by the way. And what I did then was also shown on the figure on the screen. So I'm thrilled to see the final result on this project.
After recording all needed sequences in our motion capturing session, we started to refine all movement data in post. We looked for individual parts of the different takes and extracted any details we wanted to keep. Afterward, we merged body and face movements together into one single performance. We achieved that by combining both Motion Builder and Maya for our pipeline. The biggest challenge was to capture the complete performance and keep all fine details of our actor on the one hand, and on the other hand, being able to make changes in post to get the best results possible.
Details, die einfach bei der Performance rüberkommen, in Stand zu halten, obwohl wir einiges noch verändern mussten.
I realized how important a good acting performance is to create a believable and lifelike result, and how difficult it is to achieve true realism in a motion capturing session.
We worked with the Unreal Engine, which gave us a lot of useful tools for this project. We have our blend shape setup, of course, that needed to be integrated into Unreal to achieve a lifelike impression. In addition to that, we have created certain wrinkle maps, which add even more fine details to the expression of the face for very special facial poses. For example, the blood flows differently into the head and into certain areas of the face when the actor smiles or looks scared. And the wrinkle maps were responsible for intensifying the look of those special poses.
Verantwortlich, einen stärkeren Eindruck zu suggerieren.
My goal was to see Fred really come to life. Personally, it was a challenge to dive deep into advanced facial rigging and find out how far we could go and how realistic Fred could look afterward. It was nice to see that he is also very sympathetic in 3D. Yeah, that was actually the best part. What makes the digital human special for me is, I have to say, Fred himself. He's a very nice guy, and I also think that in 3D, in Unreal, he comes across as very likable. And I think that's one of the things that's special to me about the digital human, is just this charisma that he delivers on screen.
Working with our actor was great. He's an incredibly likable person, and he did every challenging pose or expression we told him to do without any problems. You just realize the difference it makes, even in motion capturing, to work with a real performer.
Working with Fred was very nice. We were able to do everything we wanted right away. Super cool actor, super cool person, and insanely expressive face.
Our actor, Fred, made a super professional impression right from the get-go. Of course, we also chose this actor because he is very charismatic, which was really important to us. We wanted to get people involved with his performance. His professionalism, and especially the way he worked with us, harmonized very well, I have to say. Also in the area of motion capture, where we then recorded his actual facial movements, he gave everything and completely blew us away, whether it was a fearful scream or a hearty laugh. And with this believable performance, we just had a perfect foundation to build on and work.
It was definitely a lot of fun. Above all, the great thing is that the team just knows what they're doing, and they still have fun doing it. And of course, that brings me as a model just as much fun to work with them together on this project. This makes the work itself very, very easy.
It was my wish, and I can speak for the whole team, to take the digital human to its limit with the possibilities and technology available to us.
Den Digital Human bis an sein Limit bringen. Es war uns sehr, sehr wichtig.
It was very important to us that we always added a little more to the visual quality of the digital human in terms of realism and authenticity, and push the visual appearance of the digital human to its limit.
Und eben das visuelle Erscheinungsbild des Digital Humans bis an sein Limit pushen. Es sind am Ende des Tages,
at the end of the day, there are a lot of very, very small nuances and an unbelievable number of gears that come together to ultimately form one digital human.
So etwas Gesamtes wie den Digital Human zu produzieren. Das war nicht so leicht.
That was not so easy. But we faced the challenge and are very, very happy with the result of Fred, our first digital human.
Hi, my name is Fred.